If you have ever wondered about how to apply PPF on your own car, then this video is going to be for you. Today, I'm going to show you how to do a simple piece. Well, kind of simple. This mirror. It's a perfect place to start if you're a beginner. You're going to learn a lot about different angles, how to line certain edges up. This one even has a seam, which I'm not going to worry about. So what you're going to need when you first start out, when you're going to be doing this paint protection film, you're going to need an alcohol solution. I'm using distilled water for this. Usually you're going to be about 20 to 30%. So if you have a 1 liter bottle like this one, 70 mils or 700 milliliters or 800 milliliters of water, and then the rest isopropyl alcohol. You're also going to need some form of slip solution. That's actually going to be what's on the surface and on the film itself. For this one, I'm going to use gel because it'll hold it there while I'm explaining things. You're also going to need a clay bar. This is going to help you get rid of any more contaminants that the regular wash didn't get rid of. If you have a white vehicle especially and you didn't get enough of the iron particles off, you'll have to clay bar them off. And then the last thing you're going to need is a knife, especially if you're going to do this bulk. In this case, I'm going to use a template that I've cut out that basically fits this. Bulking is taking one big piece and you get it on, and then you go along all your edges and you trim up your edges to make sure they line up nicely. If you're new, cutting is hard. You can go through the film and cut your paint very easily. Normally we use the carbon steel blades for something like that. They're very, very sharp. The reason you see so many people snap blades off every time is because the sharper your blade, the less pressure you need. The less pressure you need is the less chance you're going to go through the film. All you're trying to do is pierce the film so you can tear it off. And the last thing you're going to need is some form of squeegee. I like these ones from CarPro. Amazon has multitudes of different colors of these. I like these, they work good, and they're relatively inexpensive for what they are. Unless you buy anything that says Expel on it, then they're immediately double the price. So get your clay bar wet, spray the surface you're going to be working on, and then you're just going to clay. If it's really bad, you're going to hear some grinding because there's a lot of dirt in the panel. Usually you'll find it more of an issue on horizontal surfaces. Vertical surfaces, it isn't bad. Be very careful around these edges because if any little glue chunks come off and you don't notice it during your cleanup, and that gets stuck on the gluier film, it's not going anywhere, and you either have to deal with that chunk of clay bar being in your PPF you just put on, or you need to put a new piece on. All right, so now I'll come in. This is just a 50-50 isopropyl alcohol to water solution. I only do this just so if I do have any additional dirt or I have any additional clay bar around these edges, I do find the ISO mix tends to grab a little more dirt than just water alone. If you're not sure, you can grab yourself a hard card, just wrap your microfiber around it, and you can go through these cracks. One other thing you can do, especially around hood vents, stuff like that, when you're doing your dry after you wash it, get your air nozzle. Don't jam it in there, but make sure you are blowing air through here. So when you actually start the process, I do have a template right here. One thing you can do is just stick it to your window, holds it in place, it ain't going nowhere. Now, when you go to start, make sure it's nice and clean. You can spray it over with water, take your squeegee, give it a final once over. In this case, this isn't staying on this truck, so I'm just gonna kind of go through it. So if you're using gel, you do use it a little bit different than a soap and water solution. It is really, really good for things like bumpers. You just have to make sure you squeegee good so you don't leave any air pockets or gel pockets. And when you stretch, you can't just drag it over like you do normally because your glue edges will accidentally tack on themselves. So you need to be a little more cautious. So when handling film, make sure you have wet fingers. You don't want to be putting any dry fingers in that glue because that's a much higher chance of getting contamination in there. And as a general rule, as soon as you take that piece off, make sure that glue's covered. That way, if something's floating through the air, you got a dust particle, nothing's going to get stuck in there. And you want to handle this gently, not because the film can't take it. You just don't want to get stuff under the glue that you have to get out later. So with every pattern, you got an edge. This one is cut for this, so it's designed to fit a certain way. So you'll kind of just line it up. A lot of times, I'll use kind of like the chunky part of my finger and just briefly line it up. Now, if I'm using gel, it's going to kind of hold itself. If you're using a soapy solution, Usually I'll go a little bit farther back, lift this edge up, and I'll come in with my alcohol solution and just spray in there a bit. And then I'll come back and I'll just get that corner tacked while I'm still holding here. One thing, it's a hard habit to break. When you're new, you're going to want to go straight across here. You kind of want to avoid that if you can. Pick a body line, in this case right here. Close the body line first. Now that piece isn't going to move, especially when you're not using gel, it'll tend to move a little bit more. Another benefit of that is now you have this entire area to squeegee stuff out. Because once you lock something, you don't want to push any liquid back through it. So now we got the main piece covered. So now you kind of need to read the material and figure out where it's going to go. So obviously, this is designed to go around this edge. It's going to fold this way. This is obviously going to come out this way. So there's another edge right here. The way this pattern is cut, you would think, as with right here going over, this right here is designed to wrap under, and then it's up here, and that's lined up properly. So with this pattern is designed to follow this body line, not actually tuck underneath it. So you can modify that in the pattern when you print it, or if you're doing a bulk, you can just cut it yourself. I don't know why the pattern is this way. This is just with DAP how their pattern is. So when you're using gel, you want to make sure it's loose. If there's any catching, when you go to slide it, you're going to have issues, and you want to go kind of flat hand. Any pressure points you have with gel is going to stick it, like right there. It's stuck a little bit. So you need to make sure there's none of that in there when you go to slide this stuff over. But when you're moving this over, I usually try to go for the middle. So you're keeping an eye on this body line because you want it to line up properly. And then you need to keep an eye on this body line. And then I'll just give it a little tack right there just to hold it in place. So that's lined up there. Now, when you get to this point, I kind of have it briefly lined up here. I usually use my fingernail because I can kind of see where it is. And then if I need to adjust it at all, it's pretty much lined up. So I'll do the same thing. Spray the top of it just so the squeegee slides a little better. Just hit this top edge right here. And then I can push the rest out for the bottom. So with gel, one nice thing, or one bad thing, depending on how you look at it, is these fingers, you can kind of just pull them away. I'm not putting any pressure here, I'm just kind of lightly maneuvering them into a different spot so they're easy to deal with. So I'll just give it a spray again. And then because we're sealed here, you're always going to want to start on the bottom. And I find with gel, you can do it one of two ways. If you use warm gel and you're bulking this, you'll want to take long sweeping passes. But because I have half of this closed and I have this closed, I like to kind of push it up. So I'm going to start here. Now keep in mind, there's no one exact way when you're doing PPF to keep doing it the same way. Just do how it works for you. Take what you learn and work with that, and then adapt it to your own style. Like, you don't have to do it the same way as I do it. You don't have to do it the same way as anyone else does it. You take what they teach you and you mold into your own style. It's like everything. There's a way to start, and then you just have to adjust. I don't normally use gel for most mirrors. I find it can be a little too tacky, and I'm a little heavy-handed, so I do better with soap solution. But because I'm doing a lot of talking here, I'm kind of just going to leave it. One other thing to keep in mind with gel is you can get stuff like this where it creases. I didn't push too hard. The reason that happened is because the gel kind of stuck right here, so it pushed into itself. If you drag your squeegee, so like this, the chances of it happening are minimal. If you're pushing like this, much higher chance. So if you can, drag it over as opposed to, for lack of a better term, bulldozing it over. So now, same thing, I'm going on this side, just make sure none of it's tacked on itself. With gel specifically, I like to make shorter passes because otherwise I find some of the gel stays behind and leaves a little pocket that's a little hard to get rid of. Just make sure your top edge isn't tacked there. If you do the bulldozer method, just do it nice and light. You don't need to use a ton of pressure to get this to stick on a flat surface. It's not a recess or anything, so no need to go over it. The only thing you want to do before you close your final edge, squeegee it, squeegee it, squeegee it. Make sure all of your water is gone, and then give it a light wipe. Don't use a ton of pressure here. I have caused film to ripple by going aggressive with it. Now, on a fresh piece especially, when there's edges here, edges here, edges here, go over the edge. You don't go into the edge. So don't come squeegeeing this way because you have a much higher chance of lifting that top edge you just sat down. For an edge like this one, or any edge really, grab a smaller squeegee, obviously, you don't want that giant one. I like to start in the concave first. The reason is if I push here, it can stretch from here and it can stretch from here. So if I need any stretch, it's right there. If I close this corner first and it's closed to here and it's closed to here, now I have all of this tension in there. So do your in-depth edge first, or your concave edge, and then get rid of it. If you want to wait for this to dry, or you have time, wait for it to dry and then go down nice and fast. When it comes into this corner, it's not hard, but it is a tricky one because you're going to be dealing with something going this way and this way, and there's going to be tension here. Now, it's kind of chilly in here today, so my film's a little chilly, so I'm just going to warm it up with my fingers, make it a little more pliable. Now, the way I like to do this is just to moisten it up, make sure there's a lot of liquid under there, and just kind of slide it around this corner. And then come in with my squeegee and follow my thumb to make sure it stays down. Now I know you can't see back here. And the way the light's coming in the bay, it's even hard for me to see back here. I am over the edge, so it is lifting a bit. I can use a little bit of alcohol in there, and then I'll come back up from a different direction. And it will stay down. It's a little tiny bit over the paint into the plastic. So I'll have to trim it a little bit, but no biggie. So because this was stretched this way and there was no fingers here, I can gradually take this finger and just push it this way and it'll stay down. On a bigger piece like a hood, you can generally just stretch it farther and those fingers will sit down ahead of time. So now we're gonna wipe this off gently, get all of our liquid off of there, give it a nice little inspection. Now, I will bring the camera in nice and close so we can do a close-up inspection to see what we got. Here's a better look at this indent. Same thing, another little white spot here. I would trim back because it's overhanging the paint. This comes up here where the top edge is. And this is just my finger running along the top edge of this film to show where the seam would meet up to it. This is not focusing well. Now, I was talking, so there is a little goober right there. That's a minor one. During the process, instead of just sealing that edge, you can peel this back just a tad and just scrape that out of there and reseal it. So this edge you can see right here. Basically where my fingernail is, it's almost right at the edge. I would say there's 1/8 of an inch. This one, as I said, this is designed to line up right here. And then for whatever reason, the template comes down here. If you notice any little edges sticking up, you can wait till they dry, use a little bit of heat to pass them down. But other than that, we're good. As far as difficulty, this mirror is probably like a 3 out of 5. There's much more difficult mirrors. There's also much easier mirrors. The reason I recommend starting with a mirror is because when you're fresh out of the gate, this piece itself maybe costs like $2. You can print a ton of them in the same amount of material. If you're doing it bulk, I mean, you're looking, what, 12 inches by 7 inches, being extra cautious. So you can get a lot of extra. You're gonna start out buying cheap, crappy film on Amazon, or you might get a deal somewhere. Unless you get lucky, you get on with somebody where they have material to supply you, they're still probably gonna get you to start on mirrors. Because you're gonna learn lining things up. You're gonna learn how to adjust things and maneuver with curves. You're going to learn about fingers, and you're going to learn about some tighter recesses and how to deal with them. So mirrors are an excellent training tool.